Hey YouTube, in this video I'm going to be doing my deck profile for my new Sylvan deck. This is one of the new archetypes that's debuting in Legacy of the Valiant. So I built this deck, tried to configure it to where it includes every single card. The one exception, I did not run Sylvan Yugioh because I just didn't have any room for him. The deck has a very high monster count at 24 monsters, which in my opinion is too many monsters. But as you know with plants, they're really good at spamming the field with monsters, always having something available, either for synchroing or exceed summoning. So let's get right to it. I would consider this a pure build, with the exception, as like I said earlier, there's no Yugioh. But it's running at least one of every single Sylvan, with that only card missing, which is the only common. So one Sylvan Hermitree. Just one. You really, I guess if you're trying to run a fast Sylvan deck, you don't even really need him. But he does complete the deck. He is a level 8. And as you see, this deck can exceed summon rank 8 monsters, and he can be used to bring out big synchro monsters like Star Eater. So one Hermitree. Next, I've got 3 Sylvan Marshlleaf. Probably one of the important cards that you would want to run at least 2 of, if not 3. I opted to run 3 until I get a feel of the deck. I've played it a couple of times, and I do think this is one of the most important cards in the deck, so I do recommend running at least 2 copies of it. Next, 2 Sylvan Bladefender. Bladefender is another pretty decent card. Honestly, I kind of think you only really need 2 of him. But for now I'm running 3. I may drop him to 2. It depends. The deck is a little bit weird in that it kind of has to set itself up for it to really go off. So really 2 or 3 of him is ideal. Next, 3 Sylvan Flowerknight. This is one of their most important cards. I think this is a little bit more important than Bladefender. The only difference is Bladefender is 1900 attack, so he's slightly stronger. But Flowerknight's really the card that sets up a lot of their plays. It kind of like stacks the deck, the top of the deck for them, so they can do their excavating. So 3 of that, and then 2 Sylvan Komushroomo or Komushroomo. This it's a defensive card, obviously, with its 2000 defense. But the main thing about this is it's kind of like a MST. It can blow up the back row, basically, when it's excavated. So most of the time, you don't really want to have these clogging your hand, so which is why I'm only running 2 of them. It's kind of like having 2 MST, in a way. And then 2 Sylvan Peaskeeper. This is another card you don't really want it to clog in your hand. Most of the time, you're going to want it to either be in the deck, you want to excavate it, and get its effect. Its effect is actually pretty decent. It allows you, when it's excavated, you get to target level 4 and bring it back up from the graveyard. So if you don't know what excavating means, excavating is kind of like, how can I explain this? It's kind of like Vanguard, if you're familiar with Vanguard. It's kind of like drive checking. It's excavating. Most people kind of mistake it for milling. It's not really milling, because milling is just straight up sending the top card of the deck to the graveyard. Like it goes to the graveyard. Excavating is kind of like reveal the top card of the deck, and then if it is a plant or whatever, you excavate it. So in the case of Sylvan, every time it's a plant that gets excavated, it always goes to the graveyard, and then they all have effects that activate when that happens. So that's typically how it works. And then 1 Silven Mikorange, just 1. This is probably the worst or the weakest out of the 3 rares, these 3. Only running 1. Basically all it does is it buffs the field when it's excavated, which isn't really that necessary. It does help with OTKing and supporting your cards. And it is a permanent boost. A lot of people tend to forget that. So 1 of it's enough. It's a level 3, so it helps real well if you want to go into rank 3s with like Lonefire Blossom or something. So next, those are the Sylvan monsters for this build. The next monsters are going to be plants, but they're going to be different types. So what I'm running that makes this deck kind of unique is I'm running all of the Plant Princess flower things. So the new that I pulled this Chirubime Princess of Autumn Leaves. She's kind of weak compared to the others, compared to her sisters, I guess, because she's just only got 1800 attack for level 8. But it doesn't really matter. I'm running her mainly for the consistency of having level 8s, so I can go into my rank 8 Exceed monsters. So then one Marina, Princess of Sunflowers. This is one of the better Princess cards. Her effect is really decent. One Talaya, Princess of Cherry Blossom. This one's okay. And then the original one is Tytannial, Princess of Camellias. This one, for the longest time, was all by itself, and then finally they started releasing the other 3, starting with Judgment of the Light, the Shadow Specters, and then Valiant. So those, just one of each of those. Those, along with Hermitree, are my level 8s, which allow me to get my rank 8 Exceed monsters, and they also help with getting big Synchro monsters. One Queen Angel of Roses. I may take this out. It's kind of like a once per turn fissure type of thing. It is a level 7. So it does allow me to hit a lot of weird, odd synchro numbers. I can't really exceed someone because it's the only level 7. But it's a pretty good card in its own right. It's if you have to tribute it, you can tribute one plant monster to get it on the field. So it's not that bad. It's a pretty decent card. I pulled it, so I want to experiment using it. Alright, and then the remaining plants are everybody's favorite. Lonefire Blossom, Dandylion, Spore, and Debris Dragon. Yes, I could be running 2 Lonefire Blossom, but the deck is already very crowded as it is. So I just decided to run them at the minimum. So those are kind of like the plant all-stars that almost every plant deck runs. Moving on to spells. One Mount Sylvania. I'm just trying it out, see if it's actually necessary, or if it has any benefit to running this, as opposed to just not running a field card at all. I may move this up to 2. And then one for one, essential for any plant deck. One Dark Hole, one Mind Control, because you're synchroing like crazy. You can exceed summon, so very good card. Smashing Ground, Book of Moon, Gold Sarcophagus. Gold Sarcophagus allows you to just get whatever you want. If you want Spore, if you want Dandylion, if you want Lonefire, any of that stuff, and you don't want to have to, if you don't want to excavate them, obviously you want to excavate the Silvans and not them, so you want to Sarc for them. And then 2 MST. So those are the spells. Very few spells because there's so many monsters. And then for the traps, 1 Sylvan Blessing, just because it is my pure build. So just running 1. It's an okay trap. It's not the greatest thing in the world. And then 1 Call the Haunted, because the deck special summons a ton. And then 1 Wall of Thorns. It's like a Mirror Force for plants, followed by the actual Mirror Force, Torrential Tribute, Compulsory Evacuation Device, and Bottomless Trap Hole. So very standard trap lineup. For the Exceed monsters, I'm running 1 Alsei, the Sylvan High Protector. It's their boss monster. I pulled it, and I built a deck, so obviously I'm going to run it. And then 1 Meliae of the Trees. This card came out in Shadow Specters. For plants, is a very good plant earth monster. You have to use 3 level 2 earth monsters. And it is actually a pretty decent card. It's very good support for plants. And then for the rank 3, 1 Temtempo, Anti-Exceed. And then for rank 4s, Black Ship of Corn, it's a plant. My Stroke, the new number 101. Trying it out because everybody's using it, and I pulled one. And then I just put a random rank 4 Exceed that I pulled a while back in Judgment of the Light. So 104 Masquerade, because the deck spams a lot of stuff on the field, so I can actually get like a 3 level 4 monster Exceed. And then for the synchros, I'm running 1 Queen of Thorns, because plant, it's really easy to make. Then 1 Ally of Justice Cataster. 1 TG Hyper Librarian. If you feel like you're able to synchro summon multiple times in a turn, you want to try to get him over Cataster. And then 1 Crimson Blader, because I synchro summon, and this is just super good, so just run it. And then one Star Eater because I can actually get him. And then Stardust Dragon, Black Rose Dragon, and Scrap Dragon. All of these are in here because of Debris Dragon, so I can get all of them. So that was basically the deck. Let me know what you guys think. What would you add, drop, change? I'm actually thinking of adding in the Dragon Rulers, but then that would force me to try to rethink my I guess the Princess lineup. If I'm gonna even just take all those out or leave them or add them and run everything. So let me know what you guys think. As always, rate, comment, subscribe. Thanks.